This video is about creating an invoice. You may create an invoice to a contact or a business. Here we're on a contact record, that of Mr. Ian Dumglass, and we wish to create an invoice for his business, Dumley Consulting Limited. So we click on this green button here and we get to Dumley Consulting Limited's business record. Now we go down to these operations buttons here and we select Invoice Credit Note. Notice that we have two alternatives for invoices, and the same applies to credit notes. We have lines invoices and freeform invoices. Lines invoices allow you to, in one invoice, have either 11, up to 11 or up to 22 line items on one invoice. You will have selected which one in preferences. And a freeform invoice really only has one line item, but this allows you to write an extended description of what you're invoicing the customer for. So let's use invoice lines. Notice that all these grid lines is also a preference that you can have switched off in preferences, so that there would be no lines at all, but everything would still be in the same place relative to each other. When we open up the invoice, the name of the company and its address gets pulled through and we can edit it, as you can see, and the invoice date is the current date. The next invoice number in the current sequence will be used. However, if you wish to change this invoice number, you must do so before making any data entries. Once changed, the invoice number sequence will continue from the new number. Choose a header, footer, graphic header and terms from the options shown here and using these arrows as with letters, and you can assign a project name. Attachments, you can add an attachment to an invoice if you wish, as you saw with letters, and you can create an internal reference which will show in the operations history. There are even some notes here if you have something particular to remind yourself about an invoice. You can type these up here. Here you can change the VAT percentage if you wish, and here you can change the currency also. The VAT percentage will not necessarily show VAT if you have changed that in preferences to something like sales tax, if that is what applies in another country. So now let's enter some detail in the lines. Reference, description, unit price, quantity, let's make it 2. Notice it's totaled it up. Now let's do another one. Description, unit price 10. I'll have one of those and we enter, press enter, and we see that we've got grand total £132, 120 plus 12, total VAT, net total here. If we put the cursor button somewhere where we might want to enter some standard text, we can do so in the same way as we saw with letters, because there might be some extended description of a line item. So let's try this, and let's use this one here, dummy product 1. So that text appears there, and let's say that costs £100. And notice that the totals have changed again. Click on Preview and Print as desired, and you can email the invoice as a PDF document and with letters. As a result of creating the invoice, you might want to create a new to-do to yourself, perhaps to create another similar invoice at the end of next month, and so on. Note here that there are buttons to create a delivery note, credit note or receipt from this invoice, and you can duplicate the invoice and change its style, which you wouldn't want to do here because there's 3 line items to freeform. But if there's one line item, you might find this is worth your while. That ends this video on creating an invoice. Our next video is about creating a quotation and converting a quotation to an invoice.